She ran from our wedding to punish me. But life punished her instead. Because when she finally came back, I was already holding someone else's hand. Hospitals have a way of making everyone whisper. Even the air feels like it's holding its breath. I'd been here for 3 hours already. Prenatal checkup day. My wife, Alina, was 34 weeks along, her steps careful, one hand always resting on the small curve of her belly. I held her medical file in one hand and her bottle of water in the other. Every time she smiled at a nurse, I remembered what peace felt like. When she went in for the ultrasound, I waited by the window in the corridor. Outside, rain slid down the glass like old film grain. The elevator chimed behind me. A voice I hadn't heard in a year said my name. Arman? I turned. Dr. Sean Jin, white coat, same sharp jaw, same arrogant calm. My ex's brother. For a second, my chest tightened with memory. Then nothing. Just quiet. He blinked, then frowned like he'd spotted something offensive. At your age, you're still pulling disappearing acts. My sister's been looking for you everywhere. I didn't answer. I just shifted the medical file from one hand to the other and kept my tone even. Sean, I didn't expect to see you here. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Do you even know what she went through? You vanished after the wedding. Do you think pain ends just because you leave the city? I could smell disinfectant between his words. The corridor hummed with fluorescent light. A nurse's trolley squeaked past us. 8 years together, he went on. And you repay her by ghosting? She lost weight. She barely sleeps. You ruined her. I studied him. The same family arrogance, polished by money and titles. The same ability to turn guilt into accusation. Sean, I said softly, if you're done lecturing, I'll be going. My wife's waiting. He froze. Your what? I met his eyes. My wife. For a second, silence replaced the hum of machines. I watched disbelief twist across his face. The kind of look people get when reality refuses to match their script. He scoffed. Stop joking. You think pretending to move on will make my sister forgive you? I almost smiled. Forgiveness isn't something I'm waiting for. The elevator doors opened again. 2 nurses stepped out, carrying charts. They slowed, sensing the tension. Sean ignored them. Arman, my sister spent a year flying around, trying to find you. You could at least explain why you left. She deserves that. I took a small breath, steady enough that he wouldn't hear the weight behind it. Explain? She left me at the altar, Sean. Not the other way around. That shut him up for a heartbeat. But pride is hard to silence. That's not what she told us, he said quickly. She said you... I cut him off. Then maybe she should stop rewriting history. He stared, lips parting as if to strike again. But footsteps sounded at the far end of the corridor. Alina came out of the ultrasound room, one hand on her belly, the other holding a small envelope of photos. Her hair was tied up loosely, face glowing the way peace glows when it finally belongs to you. I walked toward her, ignoring Sean's stunned expression. Everything okay? I asked, touching her shoulder. She nodded. Doctor says she's healthy, just need to rest more. She? Sean echoed behind us. I turned halfway back, enough for him to see the reflection of a light flash on the ring on my finger as I slipped my hand into Alina's. Yeah, I said quietly. Our daughter. The ring caught the overhead light, clean, silver, undeniable. Sean's jaw tightened. You can't be serious, he hissed. After everything my sister did for you. I looked at him steadily. She taught me exactly what not to settle for. A nurse passed between us, pushing a wheelchair. And in that brief interruption, I saw my escape. I squeezed Alina's hand gently. Let's go. Parking ticket's about to expire. We started walking. Sean's voice followed, rising in disbelief. You're really married, Arman? How are you going to explain this to her? People turned their heads. The corridor that had been hushed a moment ago now buzzed with curiosity. I stopped, turned fully to face him, and spoke just loud enough for everyone to hear. The ENT department's on the 3rd floor, I said evenly. Maybe get your ears checked. I said, wife, she's waiting. Don't make her stand too long. A ripple of chuckles from nearby patients broke the silence. Sean's face flushed scarlet. I slipped my arm around Alina's shoulders and guided her toward the elevator. She leaned into me, confused but trusting. When the doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of Sean, standing alone under the cold light, still trying to process the truth. Alina looked up at me. Who was that? I smiled faintly. An old story. Nothing important. She studied me for a moment, then let it go. Next appointment's in 2 weeks, she said, pressing the ultrasound photo into my hand. I stared at the grainy image, the tiny outline of our daughter, and felt a calm that no apology from the past could ever give me. She looks strong, I murmured. Outside, the rain had stopped. The glass doors opened to a clean, wet breeze. I tightened my grip on Alina's hand as we stepped into the light. Behind me, somewhere in that sterile corridor, yesterday was still standing still. But I wasn't. If I could trace the start of it all, it wouldn't be the day she left me. It would be the day she said yes. Sabrina Jin had everything I didn't. Money, reputation, a family name that opened doors I could only press my face against. I was the scholarship kid from a rust-stained district. My mother taught at a community school, patched our roof herself every monsoon. When I first met Sabrina at the university hospital's research wing, she was wearing a lab coat 2 sizes too big, and confidence that fit perfectly. She smiled at me once, and I built my whole youth around that smile. For years we survived on borrowed moments, shared noodles between night shifts, study dates that turned into silent companionship. Her family disapproved, of course. "A Jin doesn't marry from the slums," her father once said in front of me. Sabrina just squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Let them talk." And for 8 years, I believed that was enough. Her career bloomed faster than mine. She started mentoring new interns, and that's when he appeared. Mickey, the kind of man who mistakes charm for talent. Young, bright, and too eager to please. At first, I thought nothing of it. She mentioned his name like a passing colleague. Mickey stayed late again. Poor kid messed up the samples. Mickey brought me coffee today. He's learning. But soon, Mickey began to live in our texts more than I did. When I asked how her day was, she'd answer with his stories. When I called at night, I'd hear his laughter echo faintly in the background. Jealousy is a quiet poison. It doesn't scream. It whispers reason. She's just mentoring him, I told myself. She's just tired. Until one night, my excuses ran out. It was supposed to be our monthly date night, something we promised never to skip, no matter how busy. I'd spent half my paycheck getting tickets to her favorite orchestra. She loved classical pieces that sounded like running water. Said they made her mind calm, but throughout the concert, her phone kept buzzing. Each time the screen lit up, her eyes followed. Her lips twitched into small smiles meant for someone else. I leaned close, whispering, "Who keeps messaging you? Even violins can't compete anymore?" She didn't even look at me. Mickey's data went wrong again. "I'm fixing it," I laughed lightly, hoping she'd catch the joke. If I didn't know better, I'd say you care more about your junior than your boyfriend. That was the moment the air turned cold. She turned, her eyes sharp enough to cut sound. "Arman, when did you become so insecure?" I had no answer. After that night, silence moved into our house. She stopped replying to my messages, stopped coming home before midnight. The only proof she still lived there was the faint perfume on the pillow beside mine. 3 days later, she finally texted, "No appetite. Bring something light to the lab." To me, it looked like peace waving from a distance. I rushed to the market, bought her favorites, cooked like a man chasing forgiveness. When I reached her lab, I pushed the door open quietly. Inside, she was kneeling in front of Mickey, massaging his leg. His face glowed with embarrassment and something else I didn't want to name. Her voice was soft. "Does that feel better?" "Much better, senior sister," he said. My hand tightened around the lunchbox. The smell of warm soup turned to iron. She looked up, startled. "Arman, why didn't you knock?" I forced a laugh that sounded nothing like laughter. If I had, I wouldn't have seen this. Mickey stood instantly, mumbling excuses. "Brother, you misunderstood. I just had a cramp." Sabrina cut him off, walking toward me. "We're short-staffed. He hasn't eaten all day. Just give me the food." Something inside me cracked. "His leg hurts, so you kneel. He's hungry, so you ask me to cook. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?" She frowned, lowering her tone like a teacher scolding a child. "Mickey's important for the project. Stop imagining nonsense." I stepped back. The tiles blurred. When she grabbed the lunchbox from my hands, the lid flew open. Porcelain hit the floor. Soup spilled like blood, causing a scene again. She snapped. I knelt instinctively to gather the shards. One sliced my palm open. The sting felt right. She bent as if to help, but I pushed her hand away and left without a word. That night, I didn't sleep. My phone kept lighting with her messages. Apologies, excuses, promises to talk tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. A week later, my mother fainted during breakfast. The doctors said her heart was failing. I sat by her bed as she smiled weakly and stroked my hair. "Son, don't cry. I just want to see you married before I go." I lied through the lump in my throat. "You will, Mom. Sabrina and I are fixing a date soon." That night I called Sabrina. My voice shook. "Let's get married now. Even a small ceremony. Mom wants to see it." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Then her answer came. 30 seconds of ice. Arman, I can't marry you. Not now, not ever. This is your punishment for hurting Mickey. The line cut before I could speak. By morning, my mother was gone. At the funeral, rain fell exactly the way it had that night at the lab, cold and soundless. I stood beside her photo, wondering how a person could lose both love and family in the same breath. After it was over, I sold everything. The apartment, the car, the rings that never reached the altar. I left the city with one suitcase and my mother's framed picture wrapped in a towel. They say disappearing is cowardice. But sometimes, it's the only way to stop. When you leave a city that holds all your ghosts, silence follows you like luggage. The new apartment was on the 12th floor. Bare walls, no curtains, no memories. I slept on a mattress that smelled of plastic and cooked instant noodles in a single pot. At night, I could hear the upstairs neighbor's washing machine spin. That sound became my company. The city was busier, louder, richer than where I came from. That helped. When people rush, no one asks who you used to be. Days turned into something like routine. I worked as an assistant project lead in a small design firm. Long hours, short pay, no time to think. Every morning I walked to the subway with coffee and told myself that forgetting wasn't a choice. It was an exercise. Some days I almost believed it. It happened in early spring. I'd been up for 36 hours finishing a client's pitch deck. On my way to deliver it, my body simply gave up. One moment I was crossing the street. The next, the world tilted sideways. Paper scattered like snow. A voice broke through the ringing in my ears. "Hey! Are you okay?" Warm hands caught my shoulders before I hit the ground. When my vision cleared, I saw her. Simple white shirt, hair tied in a loose braid, sunlight haloing her face. "You're burning up," she said, pressing a hand to my forehead. "I'm fine," I lied, trying to stand. "Sure. And I'm a paramedic," she said, half smiling. "Come on, let's get you to a clinic." Her name was Alice. I learned that after she filled out my hospital form because I could barely hold a pen. She waded through the IV drip, scrolling her phone quietly, refusing to leave even when I told her she could. When I woke later that night, there was a small box of porridge beside my bed with a note in neat handwriting. "Eat when you wake. The world's not ending today." 3 days passed before I was discharged. I searched for her, but she'd already gone. No number, just the note. I folded it and kept it in my wallet like a charm. For months after, I'd catch myself scanning crowds, wondering if kindness ever repeats. It did. 6 months later, the company sent me on a site visit to a coastal town, the kind of place where the sea seems to breathe with you. I was setting up measurements when I heard someone calling for a taxi. She turned, and I saw her again, Alice. Same braids, same calm eyes, like the universe was giving me back a page I'd lost. She recognized me instantly. "Street collapse guy," she said, laughing. "And miracle paramedic," I replied. We shared coffee at a roadside stall while waiting for the rain to stop. Conversation flowed easily. Books, food, silly city habits. There was no probing, no pity, no mention of pasts. Only warmth, like gentle sunlight after a storm. We started meeting again after that. No plans, no promises. Sometimes she'd drop by my office with takeout. Sometimes I'd fix her laptop that kept crashing. She worked in urban field surveys, long hours in the sun, measuring soil and wind patterns. She never asked about Sabrina. She just asked if I'd eaten. One evening, after a late dinner, she said, "You look lighter these days." "Lighter?" I smiled. "I eat too much now." "No," she said softly. "Lighter here." She touched her chest lightly, over her heart. That's when I realized how long it had been since someone spoke to me without judgment. Time folded itself around us quietly. There were no declarations, no anniversaries, just two people learning to stand in the same light. A year later, when my company hit a milestone, the boss offered me 10 days off. Without thinking, I traveled back to my mother's hometown. I wanted to visit her grave and tell her that maybe, just maybe, I was learning how to live again. When I reached the old pier near the cemetery, I heard someone calling my name. Alice was there, clipboard in hand, part of a survey project. I laughed at the coincidence. She just shrugged. Maybe we're both bad at staying apart. We spent the next few days walking the seaside roads. She listened while I talked about my mother, about the mistakes I still carried. She didn't try to fix me, just listened, and sometimes that's all healing needs. On the last day of that trip, as the sun melted into the water, I asked her, "Alice, what do you think happiness looks like?" She thought for a moment. "Probably like this," she said, quiet, ordinary enough. We married 3 months later. No ceremony, no guests, just a small room, 2 signatures, and the sound of rain against the window. When she slipped the ring on my finger, her hands trembled slightly. "You sure you're ready?" she asked. "I was ready the day you refused to leave that clinic," I said. She laughed, eyes bright. "Then I guess I'm ready too, now." Every morning starts with her humming softly in the kitchen, the smell of tea curling through the air. Sometimes, when she places my hand on her growing belly, I feel a faint flutter. Life moving forward. I've stopped trying to measure happiness. It doesn't shout. It just breathes beside you. But sometimes, in the soft glow of our apartment, I catch the echo of the life I left behind. The unanswered call. The empty wedding hall. The rain on that old street. It doesn't hurt anymore. It just reminds me that even endings can be beginnings in disguise. Alice will never know how many nights she saved me from drowning in silence, and I will never stop being grateful that the universe chose her to find me. The world had finally gone quiet for me. Alice and I had moved into a small gated community, a place where evenings smelled of jasmine and lawn sprinklers. Our daughter was 3 weeks old, soft as dawn, her cries tiny proofs that life still renews itself no matter how many pieces it's broken before. That afternoon I was trimming flowers near the porch when the guard called from the gate. "Sir, someone insists on seeing you. Says she's family." The name he spoke dragged the air from my lungs. Sabrina. She stood by the entrance like a shadow that had finally caught up. Her hair was shorter, her eyes rimmed red. Time had carved regret into her face, but pride still tried to cover it. For a moment I almost pitied her. "How did you even get in?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She looked me over, gaze dropping to the baby carrier in my hand. "So it's true," she whispered. "You really married her. You already have a child," a tremor in her throat. "Did you ever think of me?" I exhaled slowly. "Every time I remember what betrayal costs." She flinched, then stepped closer. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I just wanted to punish you, Arman. I thought you sent that letter about Mickey. I thought if I scared you a little, you'd admit it, we'd argue, then make up." Her words spilled out like broken glass, sharp, useless, apologetic. "But you disappeared," she said. "Do you know what that did to me?" I almost laughed. "You talk about punishment like it's a game. You wanted to scare me?" "My mother died waiting for a wedding that never happened. I buried her alone." She shook her head, tears welling. "I didn't know, Arman. I swear." "You didn't want to know," I cut in, "because it was easier to believe a lie from a stranger than the truth from the man who loved you." We stood there under the weak afternoon light, 2 ghosts from a story that should have ended long ago. "I lost everything that day," I said quietly. "My mother, my home, the version of myself that trusted people like you. You said you wanted to punish me. Congratulations, you did. But you also punished the only person who ever wanted your happiness more than his own." Her tears fell freely now. "Arman, I'm sorry. I'll fix this. Divorce her if you have to. I'll take care of you, of the child." I held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Stop. Don't finish that. You don't get to talk about my wife or my child. You forfeited that right when you chose suspicion over love." She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. "You really hate me that much?" She whispered. "No," I said. "Hate would mean I still care. I just refuse to let you rewrite what's already over." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Please," she said, voice trembling. "Just one more chance." I shook my head. "Sabrina, some bridges burn so completely that even the smoke can't find its way back." The security guard approached, hesitant. I nodded. "Please escort Miss Jin out. Make sure she gets home safely." She looked at me like she didn't recognize the person standing before her. Maybe she didn't. The man she once knew would have chased after her, begged, forgiven. That man was gone. As the gate closed behind her, I took out a small packet of wet wipes from my pocket. Slowly, deliberately, I wiped each finger one by one. Not out of disgust, out of ritual. The guard watched, puzzled. I said softly, "Just cleaning the last traces of yesterday." Inside, Alice was sitting on the couch, our daughter asleep on her chest. She looked up when I entered. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Just an old story trying to repeat itself." She smiled faintly. "And did it?" I glanced at the baby's tiny hand curled around Alice's shirt. "No." I closed the book this time. I sank into the couch beside her. The baby stirred, then settled again, breathing in small, perfect sighs. Outside, the evening wind moved through the garden, carrying away the last of the jasmine petals. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the urge to look back. Some stories don't need revenge, they just need distance. And finally, I had both.